Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to see everybody tonight. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome everybody to the September the 2nd meeting of the Temple Terrace City Council. It's good to see everybody. If you would, please silence your electronic devices and we'll have a pool going as to whose phone is going to go off here. If you would, please stand and join me in the invocation and the pledge. Lord, we ask you to bless our meeting tonight. Grant us wisdom as we strive to make the best decisions for the good of our city. We pray for all those affected by the mass shooting in Minneapolis. May they feel your comfort and the support of all Americans. Help us to always remember that you are the source of all that is good and to be grateful for your many blessings. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. So, the fun or historic fact regarding Temple Terrace or the district falls on the mayor tonight. So, I will bore you, but I'll bore you briefly, I promise. So, I know our fire department set the standard pretty high with a PowerPoint presentation and all. I don't have that. So what I do have is kind of interesting, and I'm glad our Historic Preservation group is here tonight to kind of share in this. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to read this. I don't like to read to people, but this is short, I promise. You don't have time to go to sleep. And it's interesting, and paraphrasing loses something in this. And so this is from the Temple Terrace Sentinel, dated March the 5th, 1945. So I want you to remember what was going on in 1945. In March, it was in the throes of World War II, and which had been occupying everybody's thoughts now at this point, for 4 or 5 years. And so that's the backdrop. This is 1945 language, so there's a couple words I'm going to clean up, but rather than that, I'm going to read it in the. So don't take offense at, this is 1945, right, 80 years ago. So people talked a little differently then. So this article says terracers are giving eagerly to the Red Cross. Mrs. A.M.C. Jobson, chairman of the Red Cross Drive in Temple Terrace, announces that Temple Terracers are giving wonderfully to the Red Cross. The drive is not over, and Chairman Jobson urges everyone to be ready with their hearts and pocketbooks open. Whether you have a boy in the service or not, you will want to give generously to the Red Cross. At a Red Cross rally in the City Auditorium last Tuesday, I had the privilege of hearing Eddie Rickenbacker. You know who Eddie Rickenbacker was? Eddie Rickenbacker is at the City Auditorium in Temple Terrace, right? Remember that. Eddie Rickenbacker, the Eddie Rickenbacker. I had the privilege of hearing Eddie Rickenbacker discuss the wonderful job the Red Cross is doing on the fronts as he saw it when he made his tour of the battlefronts. He pointed out that it has taken 7,000 men in casualties to take only half of the 8 square mile island of Iwo. You can imagine how costly it will be to take the Japanese main islands. Lost my spot. Where is it? There it is. Rickenbacker also pointed out that there would be a 10 to 15 year war with the Japanese in the Pacific and in China before we defeat them entirely. Speaking as a man who had spent 28 days on a raft without food or water, he says that there isn't enough that we can do to help the Red Cross in the wonderful work it is doing. As you know, the Germans aren't feeding American prisoners as required by the Geneva Convention. It is the Red Cross who sees that food is sent through to our boys in prison camps. Give all you can to the Red Cross. So what I find, there's a lot interesting there, but sometimes when you read these things in the way they were first written, what's not said is sometimes as important as what is said. And Eddie Rickenbacker seems like an afterthought in this article. But folks, Eddie Rickenbacker came to Temple Terrace and spoke at, where was his City Auditorium? That was the Club Morocco?
Club Morocco would have been the main.
Would have been it, yeah. So we talk a lot about famous people that have had contact with Temple Terrace, but not a lot of people talk about Eddie Rickenbacker. If you don't know who he is or why I'm making a big deal about him, Google him. Don't do it during the meeting, but
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
He was the leading ace, American ace in World War I, 26 victories. He flew for the Hat and Ring Squadron.
Yes.
So.
Remember the restaurant 94th Aero Squadron?
Yep.
That's the squadron that he commanded.
And he was a big deal during that time.
Yes, yes, and went on to be president of Eastern Airlines, and big, just on, a race car driver, you name it, he did it. So I have another one, so you can wake up from that one. So this one is, we'll do Trivial Pursuit here, since we have the Historic Preservation Board. This is a two-part question. What two intersections do you think got the first traffic signals in Temple Terrace? You can shout it out, it's okay.
Bullard?
Nope.
Bullard and Glenarvan.
That's one. What's the other one? Bullard and Glenarvan is the answer to one.
At the epicenter of the city.
Whiteway.
Nope, not Whiteway.
Bullard and 56.
Bullard and 56. Those two, right? And it's, I think Glenarvan was first, but it's really not nailed down in the article I read. Now, what year? 1948. Late 1948,
Wow.
those two intersections in it. The way it reads, it looks like Glenarvan was first and Temple Terrace Highway in 56. It wasn't Bullard yet, it was still Temple Terrace Highway. So those are the first two intersections, so there you go. Nobody got all the right answers, or I was gonna give you a coin, but you can't, I don't have 3 coins, so. Very good. So that's my fun fact, or at least my facts, right? I don't know if it was fun or not, you be the judge. So, on to business. Our first item of business is an appointment to the School Support Committee. There's one vacancy on the School Support Committee, and we received one application from Miss Jessica Ferguson. Is Miss Ferguson here? I don't see her. Council members, if that is acceptable, is there a motion to appoint Miss Ferguson to the School Support Committee?
Move to appoint Jessica Ferguson to the School Support Committee for the term of from September 2nd, 2025 to September 2nd, 2028.
Second.
Motion, second by Councilmember Fernandez. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. Thank you, Ms. Ferguson, for your service. Next is another board appointment to the Police Pension Board. At the May 8th, 2025 quarterly pension board meeting, the Police Pension Board voted and reappointed Thomas Zerillo to serve as the 5th trustee resident member of the pension board. The appointment has been made by the pension board, but has to be confirmed and ratified by the city council. And so is there a motion to that effect?
Move to ratify the appointment of Thomas Zarrell to serve as the fifth trustee seat for a 2-year term extending from February 1st, 2027, up to February 1st, 2027.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion of the appointment? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. Mr. Zerillo, thank you for your service. Motions have passed. Council members, has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes of our August 19th meeting? And if so, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or corrections to the minutes?
If there was one typo on page 12, I've already let them know.
Okay, any other discussion or corrections? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays. The minutes are adopted. Next are persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. There is a 3-minute time limit imposed on each speaker. We do ask that speakers come to the podium and begin with their name and city of residence. Our first, well, we have one request to speak, and that is from Mr. Loeb. Mr. Loeb.
Good evening, Charles Loeb, Terrace Park. An interesting challenge today, quite a bit. First of all, I want to talk about the Joe Latino Center, or the St. Vincent de Paul. About a year ago, the former chief told me about it when they were talking about the homeless. And over the year, I've been keeping up with them. I've been giving them food, and I've also learned about them more. I gave some contacts to the city clerk for people that need help, but also people that can give help. It also has various crisis numbers and all that, so if anybody needs that information, needs help, or can give help, they should be thinking about talking to them. They are different from the Metropolitan Ministries. The next thing I want to talk about is the town hall meeting on September 15th, conducted by the police department on public safety. That'll be from 6 to 8 p.m. on Monday, September 15th. And it's, to me, again, it's another opportunity to do two things. One would be, I hope to talk more about the 52nd and Fowler traffic light. And number two, to talk about, hope that people will get together and get together with diverse people and renew their contacts. Of course, the Senior Expo is coming up on September 19th, both also at Lightfoot from 9 a.m. to noon. And they've always do a great job on that. So, and that combined with the fact you're all going to be doing the final budget hearing on Tuesday night, September 16th, you're all going to have a busy week if you're going to be involved with everything. I did read an article in the newspaper, the Beacon, that kind of upset me in tomorrow's Beacon about Hart. And I had a 4-word comment for it: home rule for Hillsborough, like in Miami-Dade County. Really, we have the population here now as a county that would be just as much as Miami-Dade did back then. So it seems to me that I don't feel the state should have the right to control Hart and or our bus transportation or any issue that amounts to a local matter. I also do want to remind people about tomorrow's budget meeting. I will not be at it, but it will start at 5:05 p.m. Tomorrow, for if anybody has any questions on the first reading of the budget. Let's see if there's anything else I left out. No, I think it's about it. Good evening, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Loeb. Are there other members of the public who wish to address the council? Seeing none, council members, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. Consent agenda is adopted. Next order of business is a second public hearing and second reading of Ordinance 1582, amending Chapter 12 of Article 11 entitled Historic Preservation. I will open the public meeting and ask Ms. Barlow, our Senior Executive Assistant, to present. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Charter Officers. My name is Jeannie Barlow. I'm the City Manager's Assistant. I'll be presenting an amendment to the city's Historic Preservation Ordinance on second reading. Let's review the National Park Service's objection. The National Park Service stated that a provision in the city's ordinance which outlined a local designation process for historic districts that required 100% owner consent was incompatible with the purpose of the local preservation program and did not allow for adequate public participation in the program as required by the National Historic Preservation Act. As a result of the National Park Service's objection, staff is recommending the removal of Section 121160A2, which states the following: the consent of all property owners of each property proposed for designation hereunder shall be required prior to any action by the board on a nomination for historical property designation, and the written consent of all property owners within a proposed historical district shall be required prior to any action by the board. The city can allow for an objection process. The National Park Service permits an objection process for single property owners and more than 50% of property owners in a district prior to designation. With this in mind, staff is recommending adding Section 121160A3, which states the following: no individual historic property or site will be designated without the written consent of the property owner. And if the property owners of more than 50% of the properties within a district object in writing to the proposed designation of a district, either before or during the public hearing, then the application shall be withdrawn and not considered by the Historic Preservation Board at that time. The city can also allow for modifications of a boundary of a district. There are provisions in other historic preservation ordinance which allow the governing body to modify the boundaries of a proposed historic district to exclude the properties of those who object to being in the district. Staff is recommending revising the language in Section 121160E2 to add the following: a decision to approve the designation of a historic district over an owner objection shall be by a majority vote of council. Modification of the boundaries of a proposed historic district is not a reversal of the Historic Preservation Board recommendation, so long as the modification is within the area that was properly noticed. The proposed language provides the council with two options. The council can decide to approve the designation of a historic district over an owner objection, or the council can decide to modify the boundaries of the proposed district to accommodate the objecting property owner, as long as the modification is within the area that was properly noticed. And the city is adding an appeal process. In regard to an appeal process, staff is recommending adding language in section 121160E5 to state the following. An objecting property owner may appeal the city council's decision to the circuit court in and Hillsborough County, Florida. Such appeal shall be by writ of certiorari and shall be filed within 30 days of the public hearing in which the city council's decision was made. Offering an appeal process for historic property designations will allow for due process, promote fairness, and offer an objecting property owner the right to challenge a decision regarding a property's historic designation. So in response to council request to research the St. Petersburg establishment of historic districts, staff contacted a historic preservation planner with the city of St. Petersburg to discuss the creation of historic districts. It was explained that an application can be filed by a property owner, any St. Petersburg resident, and/or any organization of the city, including the city council. The designated area would undergo a thorough survey and study to determine the age and significance of the building, sites, or structures within the proposed boundary. This involves gathering information on the neighborhood's history, architectural styles, building types, and the overall character. As part of the application process, a public information meeting is then held for the owners of the parcels to be included in the proposed district. Between 15 days and 90 days after the public meeting is held, a ballot is mailed to each of the property owners in the proposed district requesting the owner return a signed ballot to the city via U.S. mail indicating either support or opposition for the application. If evidence of support for the historic district is received from 50% plus one of the property owners, the application is subsequently submitted to the City Council for consideration. The application for district designation requires a simple majority vote regardless of whether there is opposition from one or more property owners located within the proposed district boundary. So, in regard to property rights, shouldn't historic district designation be voluntary rather than mandatory? At first, this would seem to be a valid point. Shouldn't ordinances allow for voluntary historic district designation? The National Park Service has indicated that such ordinances, however, would be inherently weak from a preservation viewpoint, for it gives owners in a proposed historic district the right to determine whether their property and others in the proposed district are historically significant. Individual owners may not be the best people to make this judgment for the entire district. It is important to realize that historic buildings in a proposed historic district are historic, whether or not that fact is recognized by all the owners in the proposed district. The National Park Service supports a consensus in the local historic district designation process to include either the owner consent process or the owner object process. The difference between the two approaches is determined by how silence or non-response by property owners is treated. In an owner consent approach, silence or non-response has the effect of a vote against designation. In an owner object approach, silence or non-response has the effect of a vote for designation. Historic designation remains a voluntary process for individual property owners. Although the National Park Service does not allow for 100% owner consensus in the creation of historic districts, it is important to remember that individual property designation is 100% voluntary. Individual property designation is also a much simpler process than what historic district designation would entail. Creation of a district is an extensive process which would include a public awareness campaign, research, documentation, and surveys on all the boundaries within the proposed district, establishing and justifying the district boundaries, preparing the boundary map, holding public hearings to gather community support for the nomination, and finally, mailing out and tabulating all the ballots to the individual property owner within the proposed district. The entire process would take from 6 months to 1 year to complete. This concludes my presentation, but our Historic Preservation Officer, Marissa Robinson, would like to present additional information on this issue.
Welcome, Mrs. Robinson.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Marissa Robinson with Community Development. When the Historic Resource Survey was completed in 1988, there were 69 Mediterranean Revival buildings surveyed, and an additional 6 buildings were reported as demolished at that time. Since then, 11 more historic buildings have been demolished within the city. This does not include properties that were not included at all in the survey, including those that were the St. Andrews Apartments, which there were approximately 3 to 4 apartment buildings with 8 apartments in those, and none of those have historic resource surveys, and they were all demolished as well. I also wanted to give a quick update on the interest in the program. Ms. Barlow and I have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow to meet with somebody about designating their house. They are excited not only to have the opportunity to designate, but they are also excited about to be the first to designate their property locally within the city. And any questions, Ms. Barlow and I are available to answer.
Thank you, Mrs. Robinson. Are there members of the public who wish to comment? Yes, Mrs. Donahue. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Donahue. I live in Temple Terrace, and thank you for having me here tonight, Mr. Mayor and council members. At the last meeting, even though the entire board was in the audience, we had not met to actually discuss our support of the application for the CLG, but Mrs. Barlow had been keeping us up to date every step of the way. So once again, as you know, sunshine rules prevent us from gathering, but we definitely were being informed. So we had a meeting that was already on schedule, and we added a workshop to that meeting. And at that meeting, we had a robust conversation about what this meant and how it would be applied in our city. And obviously, the word voluntary kept coming up over and over again. But what we're really here tonight to support is the application and the change in the ordinance so that we could become a CLG. Because as you know, you've heard it over and over again, without the CLG, we're just a town with a lot of old houses. And so we need to apply for this, we need to qualify for this, and then all the goods that come with it, all the services and the opportunities for enhancement will come after. So tonight we urge you, and I was lucky enough to be the board chair, and so my signature is on this letter. But I can tell you that all the members who are here tonight, and maybe 1 or 2 weren't able to make it, were in complete agreement that we support the amendment as amended. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Mrs. Donahue. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment? Seeing none. Council members, are there questions? It's not discussion just yet. Questions for anywhere staff? Councilmember Fernandez.
Yes. I have a few questions. So when, I don't know, I maybe for Ms. Barlow, might be the most knowledgeable, I don't know, but you can tell me if you're not. So where I have been concerned about the voluntary aspect of this, right now, I think if your home was built, or the building was built in 1974 or earlier, you potentially qualify, and that would create districts. So I'm thinking of Crestover and Rolling View, that area. Those houses were built in 1972. So that's where I'm concerned about the district. But can you explain if we have an area, like just let's take Crestover and Rolling View, because I know that they were all built about the same time. If you have homes in that area that have seen renovations or remodeling that's inconsistent with 1972, like how would a historic district go about being created in the city of Temple Terrace with neighborhoods like that, or streets where we have the mid-century modern that were all built at the same time, but
So the difference is you're talking probably about National Register districts. National Register districts require that the structures have their historic integrity. But other criteria in the ordinance outlined for local designation, there's A through E here, and it's significant to city history, associated with distinctive elements of social, political, economic, or scientific properties associated with the lives of persons significant in the cities or states or nations past. Properties or districts which embody the distinctive characteristics of a type, period, or style. So it's not about the actual integrity of the structure, the historic integrity of the structure.
okay, so what I'm trying to establish is how likely areas of the city might qualify for a historic district designation.
The district designation would have to either be by the property owner or the city. And as we've said repeatedly, Mediterranean revivals don't qualify with the way they're designated. But it would just take a lot of work if it was going to be city initiated or from the applicant, from the property owner. It's just a major public awareness campaign. I mean, if you have the owner objection process or the owner consent process, it requires a majority to, speak up one way or the other. And it's a lot of work. You'd have to do surveys. Just to update the survey that we already have in place for the 1988, the Mediterranean Revival survey that we already have, I got a quote of over $100,000 to update it. So it's just expensive, it's time consuming, and if you get properties that don't want to do it, it's a failed effort.
So what I'm asking is, if we take Crestover and Rolling View, and we say, okay, based on the time period, those houses would now qualify for some historic designation. That enclave was built all at the same time, so every house would qualify at the same time, but there's nothing politically significant that happened there. It was just a bunch of families lived there. It used to be an orange grove, but it's not anymore because it became single-family homes. But so if you have that type of building enclave, and you've got where people have added on, so the historical structural integrity probably isn't there because they've added on over the years or remodeled, etc. But then also maybe there's one house or two houses that have any kind of historic, like I lived on Crestover from 1972 to 84, okay? You could say, oh, a city council person grew up here, whatever. That's the historic significance. But what I'm saying is there might be only one house that had some kind of historical significance to the city. Would you be able to create a district in that area because of that one house?
I think that would be really, really difficult to do that. I mean, why wouldn't that one house just want, single property designation? Why would you go after the entire district? Why wouldn't you just do the one property that wants to be designated?
Well, and that's what I'm just trying to make sure that I understand, because as you know, I am very pro historic preservation. There's no secret about that, but at the same time, I'm also very pro owner voluntary participation. So what I'm trying to get at is for me to reconcile where the Park Service is saying we need to have really more, less voluntary participation, essentially. But if we're looking in our city, is this really going to have the impact that I'm concerned about? That's what I'm trying to ascertain that.
I would highly doubt it. I mean, that's just because of all that's involved with putting a historic district in place. If you don't have a lot of community input and community support, how is it going to work? How is it going to unfold if you don't have the support that you need?
And then can we, because right now I believe that our code is really based on owner dissent, but could we go to an owner consent model?
Either way is acceptable by the National Park Service for CLG certification, either way. The owner object is required for National Registry District, but either way is acceptable for a local designation district.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I want to clarify that just a little bit. So with the ordinance we're looking at now, if someone moves into Councilmember Fernandez's childhood home and says, this is great, and it hasn't been, and they want to apply to be a historic house, they can do that individually
Yes,
with the ordinance we're going to pass.
yes,
Not create the whole district.
correct.
Even though on the corner of Rollingville and Crestover, I live there, so that's 2 in that district.
It's true.
But anyway, so the ordinance tonight takes care of an individual that wants their house in there.
Correct,
But we don't have to create or go through the work for the big district.
correct.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
No questions.
Councilmember Kravitz.
I just have one. Sorry for the gotcha. Just letting you know it's coming. I looked at the reporting on this back in 2024 in the Temple Terrace Beacon. Just wanted to read this section, make sure that John Cody got this one wrong. It says that ordinance, which made historical preservation a public policy, was fueled by the efforts of Marisa Robinson, an administrative assistant for community development, and city manager executive assistant Jeannie Barlow. It led to the city on May 1st being accepted into the Certified Local Government CLG program, a partnership with federal, state, and local government focused on protecting historic properties. Is that incorrect?
What he was talking about was that we got approval from the state. The state gave us a thumbs up on our application and sent it. We had to, the mayor had to sign the agreement on behalf of the council. And once that was done, we sent it to the National Park Service. So that was the date that we got officially recognized by the state as a CLG.
Okay, got it. That was my question for you. Thank you.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to shed these are good questions that you guys have over here, but am I reading this wrong, Jeannie? On the paragraph D, it's paragraph D is what? The criteria talks about there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different criterias, but in concerning a district, the first paragraph says properties or districts which are at least 50 years old meeting the following criteria may be designated as historic properties or districts. But my understanding is that those homes in that area would have to, all of them would have to meet these criteria.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
trying to.
so just like your childhood home,
Yes.
unless all of those homes were somehow impacted by that same, meet these criteria, you'd have a good cause for that property, but not for a district.
Right, and that's the only thing that I'm trying to get
Yeah.
clear is that doesn't sound like, it does not sound like we can create a district really with any of our areas.
Yes. So I do have a question, that really wasn't really a question, but we could, in light of what we've learned in the past couple of weeks since first reading, we could flip the requirement, like we had a speaker, Joe Farrell, that came and gave public comment. We've since learned that we could flip that from being 50% plus one have to object to being 50% plus one have to request.
That's
We
correct.
could flip that in this ordinance.
They're both acceptable by the National Park Service.
So, Mr. Mueller, what would be the impact tonight or the mechanics of that if the council chose to flip that language so that the onus became 50% plus one on the people who want to make a district as opposed to causing the people who don't want it to have to do something to prevent it?
Then we would not have second reading tonight. We would have a first reading that would include that new language, and then second reading would be at our in 2 weeks.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Barlow, Mrs. Robinson, thank you very much. Okay, council, I'm going to open it up for discussion prior to motions. Well, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance first.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending Chapter 12, Article 11 of the Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances entitled Historic Preservation, removing Section 12-1160A2 and adding Section 12-1160A3 regarding consent of property owners for a proposed historic designation or district, revising Section 12-1160E2 regarding modification of the boundaries of a proposed historic district, and adding Section 12-1160E5 regarding an appeal process, and providing for severability, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing authority to codify, providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, what's your pleasure? Councilmember Fernandez.
First, I do want to comment, because I've been involved in this discussion since my previous time on council, and it was council directed to ask staff to put this together. So staff didn't take the initiative and bring it to us. Council, this was part of our council goals in past councils, and I am a full supporter of historic preservation, as I said, and my only concern is making sure that we don't infringe on property owners and their personal preferences. So with a change to owner consent and with the understanding of how a district could be created in this city, I do support the changes that we've discussed.
If we flip it.
Yes.
You want to put that in a motion, or you want us to go down the dais?
I say go down.
Okay, Councilmember Chambers?
Okay, so we're discussing before the motion.
Here we are, because
Okay,
it's,
sounds good. So I'm support the last reading, and I fully more support it with the change in the ownership. So I'm good with that. My question, I know you answered that, but we've made changes between first and second readings before. Is this more significant, which is why you want to maybe make this the first reading with changes?
Yes, I find this to be a substantive change, a very substantial change in the fact that during first reading, it was the idea that it would take a majority to say no to stop it. And instead, we're flipping it and making it a majority to say yes in order for it to go forward.
Okay.
So in abundance of caution, I'd like for it to go back to first reading and have second reading.
Okay, that's all.
Yes, I've been a full support of this ever since it came back up before this council. As I voted in favor of it last meeting and before. However, I do like the concept of flipping it so that the new verbiage of the 50+1 to make it happen. So would this motion be this first reading then? This would be the first reading. Was that said in that? Or we haven't made a motion, so okay. Yes, I agree with it. I think we should move forward with it, with the new, the flipped verbiage.
Councilmember Kravitz?
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent change. So I really welcome that proposal. I think that goes a long way toward addressing several of the points I was going to raise, so I'm not going to mention them now anymore. Thank you for the suggestion. Fantastic. The other points that I might want to still work on if we're going back in and doing surgery on this is adjusting some of the majority requirements. So it's one thing to say you have to get 50% of the people in a given area to agree. We might want to raise that threshold to something like 60%, so it's not just 50% plus one, so it shows greater support in a given area when they come and bring their proposal. And I think that would go a long way toward addressing some of the concerns that the other property owners might have. Another point we might want to look at is how long we give people to collect themselves. there's a notice period here when an area is identified for designation. It's 8 weeks. So I guess the structure might be hypothetically that either the Historic Preservation Board or City Council says, all of you are about to become an historic district. Why don't you go and collect signatures now and see how many of you support it? And then if it's a majority, it proceeds. I think that would be a really good process, but we might want to give people more time than 8 weeks to do that, because you can't really canvass that many people in 8 weeks. It'd take probably, if you're talking about 50 houses, it might take you anywhere from 15 to 20 hours, because you don't always get everyone when they're home. The other thing that I'll say is, given our record in reaching people, which hasn't been super great lately with mail, I'll just mention the PFAS thing briefly. It would be a really good idea for us to make sure that everyone in that particular district gets the mail that they're being sent here with proof of receipt, because that's one thing that's not actually in here. So if we're looking at an area with 20 or 30 houses or whatever it may be, it's not a big deal to make sure that all of those people get mail where they have to prove that they've gotten it. You have some receipt from the post office, just send it registered, and then you'll know that they've been properly informed, and we'll be able to support our position in the end if it becomes an issue. So I think those are some of the points that I've raised, that I'd like to raise on that. I think it's a great idea to flip it, fully in support of that. So if someone wants to make a motion along those lines, and otherwise I'll do it. And if you want to integrate the extended notice period, I think that would be really cool too. So
the time periods in the ordinance, and I know you weren't here, they were subject, we had a lot of discussion at the time when this ordinance was passed. We didn't like the time periods either, on a number of the time periods, but they were given to us by the state. So we don't really have the flexibility to change them. I agree with you, I didn't like the time periods either, but we'll be right back here again because the state, they gave us the time periods.
And any thoughts on the form of notification? Is that also mandated by the state, that it's just sent by simple mail?
I don't know.
Did I miss something? Because I could have swore she said that it was certified mail return receipt requested.
Browse here for a minute.
I don't remember.
Did you say that, or am I?
That was in St. Pete's.
That's where I heard it, okay.
All I see here is notice of said hearing shall be provided in accordance with this chapter, so I'd have to dig around a little bit more, but. So anyway, I think since we're probably not going to actually rewrite the actual statute right now, like I'm not going to be just dictating stream of consciousness style, it's probably going to go back to the city attorney or to staff for a revision, just like we did with the fence ordinance. So I think it would be a good idea to sort of capture our broad strokes thoughts on this and then give that back as a general direction so that it can be executed. So to summarize, I would go for reversing the rule about the consent. Instead of it being you have to object, it's you have to consent. Strongly support that. Fantastic. And the other one would be to make sure that the notices are sent to the designees or the prospective designees by some form of registered mail. Those would be my two big items. And then I don't think getting into all the other weeds right now is so great. So if we're going to go back to a first reading anyway, then we'll have a chance for some more discussion on this, which I also think is positive. So those would be the two main items. Should I make a motion along those lines? Would you all like to support that?
Can I add, just to take the verbiage of the notice from the St. Pete
Sure.
code, at least, I mean, because that already says in that, the methodology,
Yeah.
be my request.
Sounds good.
Is there an impact that we're missing, Mrs. Barlow?
I would think if you put things in the ordinance like that, I mean, you can, obviously, but perhaps it might make more sense to put like standard operating procedures and adopted by resolution. This is the way that this is going to happen. And if you need to tweak it and make changes down the line, what works, what doesn't work, it's much easier to revise a resolution than it is to come back with an ordinance.
To comment on that, in 20 years, when someone will registered mail be around? We don't know, so,
City
you know.
attorney?
Well, if I can chime in a little bit on that, just through my experience, especially through code enforcement, certified mail return receipt normally does not get picked up, or at least it's very rare that it gets picked up. I just want to put that out there. Now, people do like to, pick up their FedEx and their, other ways of delivery where you have documentation that people have picked it up. But I'm just letting you know that, certified mail return receipt is not necessarily, people are not necessarily getting.
Yeah, it's true, but it is better than just plain mail. I mean, we really did have a serious problem with a lot of people never getting any of that communication previously.
Councilmember Fernandez.
So can we get, we haven't made a motion yet, but in the instruction, can we just give instruction to make sure that it's some form of notification that is documented so that we have the city has the option of using FedEx or UPS or the post office, receipt or some sort of process that has a documentation versus giving a very specific methodology. I'm just asking because, again, we don't know what will be available as time goes on.
I only get a little worried with that instruction, and then if we do write something up what we think comports with that instruction, but it doesn't, then we're gonna have a problem at second reading, that's all.
So you were earlier prepared to make a motion. Are you still prepared to make a motion?
I am, or Councilmember Kravitz can. I just want to make sure we're giving the instruction that is going to be the most useful for staff to come back with what we've got.
Councilmember Chambers.
Okay, thank you. So we've talked it with the 8 weeks, we're gonna leave in there because that's a state mandate. We're gonna probably leave in whatever the notification method the city's recommending, not do certified mail, say it, or any of that. What about the 50% plus one? Right now, that's the way it is, and I can support that because
Everybody voiced
yeah.
the opinion that they wanted to flip the 50%.
No, but his proposal was to go higher than 50%.
We can't.
We can't.
We can't, okay?
That's what came back.
That's, I'm good with that. So I was just trying to address all the questions.
Since you've been doing it the longest, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, so I would like to move that we adopt on first hearing, public hearing, and first reading of ordinance 1582, amending chapter 12, article 11, entitled Historic Preservation, with the modification that it requires owner consent to designate a historic district designation.
And that would be 50% plus one.
50% plus one.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion. Vice Mayor.
Discussion, adding a documentable method of delivery. Does that cover everything?
Or, what's the suggestion for the best way to create the?
So I don't foresee us doing, because we don't know what's going to be around, like FedEx or anything like that. I think the registered mail is a standard, although maybe not as well received as it used to be in the past, because people don't deal with their mail the same way that people did, let's say, 30 years ago. But that's still in statute in some places, isn't it? Registered mail, that is sort of the go-to. So I believe, I'd suggest just going with that. Go with that, and we'll use that.
Second as it stands.
That would be certified.
We already have a second on that.
Okay.
Okay, further discussion of the motion. Councilmember Kravitz.
Brief comment. I just want to point out that I'm kind of working at cross purposes with myself here by making the suggestion that we go with a more reliable mailing method, because once you flip it to being everyone has to consent, if I don't want it to become a historic district, then I don't actually want people to get the mail, because then they won't know that they can consent to anything. So I'm just trying to make sure that all of our Ts are crossed and our Is are dotted. But if you want it to be a historic district, everyone should support a more stringent mail form, because it'll be more certain that people will actually get the notice. I yield.
Other discussion?
I mean, my only request is that I do want to make sure that we have a documentable mailing process. I also want to make sure that we're structuring the language so that whatever is the prevailing documentable process is that the city is able to use. So that's what I'm asking for, the suggestion, the language suggestion that maintains, regardless of what the name of that specific documentable mailing process is, that we are using that so that we can ensure that it's getting delivered to the households that we're requesting.
So just throw out a suggestion. I don't know, not sure if we do it here, but in my past community, because we had issues with registered mail that was being left uncollected, we would still send a regular letter as well. So we would do both. We'd send a first-class mail letter, we'd send a registered mail letter, because that was what the statute required. But knowing that people don't take the effort to go to the post office to pick it up, at least we made the effort of sending them the first-class letter as well. So, I mean, whether you want to incorporate that into this or just have that be the practice going forward, we could do that too. Again, it's hard to guarantee that everybody will get notice. I imagine that when we get to this point, if we ever get to a point of a historic district, that there'll be other means of communication out there. There'll probably be whatever the future of social media will be, whatever the website will be, whatever it might be, that we'll probably be doing that as well to get that information out to residents. But obviously here you want to meet an ordinance requirement, so if you leave it as registered or certified, I'm not really sure anymore what the difference is between the two. That would probably suffice.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're looking for a method we want it to be mailed so that we know it got delivered.
Yes.
Correct. That's the key.
Yes.
So perhaps we use a method of delivery that shows that the letter was delivered.
Okay.
And we can work on that language.
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. Ordinance is adopted on first reading and will appear for second reading next council meeting.
Number 16.
Will appear for second reading on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. Thank you, ladies. Next item is first reading and first public hearing of an ordinance approving rezoning application RZP 24-01 for 306 Bullard Parkway. This is continued from July 15th, 2025. This is a continuation. This hearing remained open from July 15th, 2025, and this is a continuation of that hearing. I would ask anybody who intends to speak on this matter to please stand and be sworn in by the city clerk.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide the board tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please answer, I do.
Do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Mueller, would you please poll the council for ex parte communications?
I would like to ask the council members if they have had any ex parte communications on any of the matters that will be coming before the council this evening. If you've had verbal communications, if you could indicate who those communications were with and when they were made and the substance of those. And if it was written communications, if you could indicate who they were from, the substance of those written communications, and get a copy to the city clerk for the record.
I have none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
Thank you. Ms. Robinson, our Deputy Director of Community Development, is here to present. Good evening again.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Marissa Robinson with Community Development. Tonight for your consideration is RZP 2401, the modification to planned development located at 306 Bullard Parkway. This is an aerial view of the subject property. It is at the intersection of Ridgedale and Bullard Parkway, with access being granted on Ridgedale Road. This is the general area map of the property. It is approximately 0.77 acres. It is currently zone plan development, with the proposed uses of being office and residential. This is the proposed master plan for the site. Everything indicated in red are future improvements, which include the landscape buffering, fencing, bicycle rack, and proposed additional parking if needed based on the use. The applicant is requesting one waiver. Applicant is requesting that the waiver waive the traditional 2-year submittal requirement for a final site plan, seeking approval to amend the required period from 2 years to 5 years, and staff has no objection to this request. Conditions for this application include the uses, which are professional office, medical dental office, daycare, portrait studio, public building, public station, school, veterinary clinic, healthcare facility, single-family dwelling, and a bed and breakfast. These proposed uses will provide the owner with greater flexibility for the property in the future. Conditions are also pursuant to the waiver. The final site plan must be submitted within 5 years of approval of this rezoning. All future changes in the use are subject to review requirements of the Land Development Code. All non-residential uses shall conform with commercial office zoning districts as described in the Land Development Code. All residential uses shall conform with the residential 10 zoning standards as described in the Land Development Code. And all uses shall meet parking requirements as described in the Land Development Code. Minor modifications may be approved subject to Section 12-380 of the Land Development Code. For all standards that are not specified herein, the Land Development Code standards shall apply. Staff is recommending approval of RZP 2401 for the property located at 306 Bullard Parkway with conditions as presented. The applicant is here for any questions, and I will stand for any questions as well.
Very good. I'll go to public comment first. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this? Not the applicant or applicant's representative is here. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Council members. My name is Gordon Schiff. I'm the attorney for the applicant. My address is 4155 West Cypress Street in Tampa. I have with me tonight Todd Amadin, who's president of Landmark Engineering and Surveying, and he is our expert who's put together the site plan and worked with your staff regarding this rezoning. And it's really a rezoning modification, as Ms. Robinson suggested. Just to summarize, because the staff's done a great job in their report and also in their summary to you, this is an existing PD approval on the property. We are essentially taking a 30-year-old PD and updating it so it can go forward in the future. These are minor amendments, but important amendments to make sure that it has enough flexibility so it can be a viable use. One other thing to mention to you, you did get a Planning Commission report. The Hillsborough County City County Planning Commission did find this consistent with the comprehensive plan, and that's an important finding. And finally, I think I should just mention that if you have any questions, I'll be here to answer them, and I'll let Mr. Amadin say just a few words. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Good evening. Todd Amadin, Landmark Engineering in Tampa. A few words indeed. I'm prepared of the site plan, worked great with staff, although it took us a bit. We worked through this modification conditions, and we're happy with the results. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Okay, council members, any questions for staff or for the applicant's representatives?
I have one just
Vice
minor.
Mayor.
The extension of the site plan review, or the final review, 2 to 5 years. I don't remember anything coming before us before with that length of a time frame. Anything in particularly?
We've never had a previous application, to my knowledge, that has requested that waiver, but I will defer to the applicant to state why they have requested that.
Again, for the record, Gordon Schiff, appreciate the question. It's an existing building with an existing uses, and it's a little hard to predict the future, so we want to build in enough flexibility that if something comes along, we don't have to come back for another rezoning earlier or something like that. We just wanted enough time. So we talked to staff early on about that. We all came up with 5 years. It's maybe it isn't perfect, but it seemed like a reasonable request, so that's why we're making the request.
Okay.
I have a question, Ms. Robinson. So this is a rezoning application, but it's not really rezoning, it's still PD, right? It's just it's the acceptable uses within the PD designation.
Yeah,
We're broadening what they can use it for.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
it is a modification to plan development zoning classifications do go through a rezoning application.
Okay,
So even though they're just modifying the PD and modifying the uses that are proposed, it still has to go through a rezoning process.
okay. It's just a
Formality.
broader range of allowable uses, but it's still PD.
Yes.
Okay, good. Other questions? Councilmember Fernandez?
Yes. So, sorry, it's for you. When we've added, or we're looking at adding the allowable uses, it's residential behind this property, and there's a school, right, I mean, within a few hundred yards. How does that impact the allowable uses that we are considering adding? Are any of them, I mean, they didn't seem terribly incompatible with the neighborhood, but are any of them considered even remotely incompatible with a neighborhood?
No, they are all within the commercial office zoning district, all the uses that they are proposing. And commercial office, there are abutting properties that are also zoned that.
Okay, so if we agree and make this zoning modification, what would be allowable on this property? I mean, could they come in and bulldoze the building and build on the property now? Like, a completely different use, like commercial on the first floor and residential on the second floor, or what is?
They would
allowed?
again have to come in for a rezoning application and a site plan application if they were to propose that.
But this zoning modification doesn't necessarily allow going to that type of development? No. Okay.
Oh, there was a slide on that.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to make sure that it's, that it's just very clear, so, okay, thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, approving the amendment to a planned development for 75 plus or minus acres of property lying north of Bullard Parkway and east of North 56th Street, addressed as 306 Bullard Parkway for RZP-24-01, providing for amendment of the official zoning atlas map of the city, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinance in conflict herewith, providing for an effective date, and providing for correction of typographical errors.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, is there a motion?
Yes. Move to approve first reading of an ordinance approving rezoning application RZP 24-01 for 306 Bullard Parkway with the conditions as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion of the motion?
Yes.
Yes, Councilmember Fernandez.
I just want to clarify for the record that it's .75 acres, not 75 acres. That's a big difference. That's it.
Okay. Discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. The ordinance is adopted on first reading and will appear for a second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. Thank you. All right, council, any carryover council business from previous? Okay, new business or board reports? Mr. Kravitz, Councilmember Kravitz.
I have a Davis Road update. So I reached out to one of my contacts over at the commission, and I have the following information about Davis Road. So there is going to be some potential localized pavement repairs after my inquiry in this year, in 2026. And I can report that a full resurfacing project for Davis Road is planned to start project development in our fiscal year 27. That is a direct quote. So all of the individuals who were having a difficulty with Davis Road might be expecting some relief soon with hope that that will go through. And I have a second item which relates to short-term rentals, an update from Manatee Fire District. I thought this was extremely interesting. The district began to assess vacation rentals as commercial properties, not as residential. Property management company sued them, but it was unsuccessful. So the property management company lost the lawsuit, and these short-term rentals, Airbnbs, were requalified successfully as commercial enterprises, which, as I've repeatedly said, I think they are. So in this instance, Manatee Fire District did not actually back down from the lawsuit. Many of the counties and municipalities do typically back down because they don't want to risk it. It's too troublesome for them. But they didn't do it this time because the community was so solid behind it, and they won. So I think that that's a really interesting thing that we should explore, because we also have a lot of people in Temple Terrace who operate Airbnbs in our residential areas. And as I've said again and again, and as you know, I've spoken with many people who don't like them. They complain about the noise, they complain about the throughput of cars, they complain about the street parking. All of that is a burden, and of course they also don't comply with, I'll say this diplomatically, they don't comply with our fire protection rules quite in the same way that long-term rentals do presently. And the other point I have about short-term rentals is from Pinellas County. Pinellas County has been using decibel meters in some of their police cars to patrol the Airbnbs. And decibel meters are able to tell how loud a property is at any given time. When they go over a certain number of decibels, then they get dinged, they get an infraction because they're causing too much noise in a residential area. This is very limited in Pinellas because they don't have enough decibel meters and they don't have enough police. Given the size of our city and given our police force being out occasionally, being a little bit smaller, it might be worth looking into. I don't know if this would be a major point of enforcement, but I could imagine a scenario where an individual might call in, report a noise violation, and then we might send a police car down ad hoc to take a decibel meter reading. And if it is a short-term rental, it would be good to ding them, in my opinion. So those are two things that I can report on. And I'd certainly be happy if there were support to look into requalifying short-term rentals in Temple Terrace as commercial enterprises. So I'm going to make a motion on that today. So I'd like to move that we instruct our city attorney and our city manager to explore requalification of Airbnbs as the commercial enterprises that they are.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. My biggest question would be, how do city staff identify them? And how do we go about doing this in a legal process? Because somebody could have their own personal residence and periodically short-term vacation rental versus doing this where the home is empty and it's always like that. I mean, because I've actually stayed in a short-term rental where it was a family member's house. I mean, not my family member. It was a family's house, and they rented it out, and but they lived in it the rest of the year. So it really was a residential property versus a house where you go into, it's empty and it's always turning over. How do we identify that?
Councilmember Chambers?
Sure. I don't know if we need to go into those details right now. We're just asking the city attorney and the city manager to explore, can we designate these commercial? So I don't think we need to worry about all that right now. We first need to figure out if we can do that or not. And a comment, our police now, whether it's rentals or not, if there's a complaint about noise, they go out with their cars and they have decibel meters and they do work with that. And I'm going to look for a yes or no from the chief back there, to my knowledge. You don't have, okay, you do.
So,
Sorry.
Chief,
Good evening, Rob Staley, Police Chief.
we
Currently, we-
probably should stick with
Yes,
the motion on the
yes,
floor.
yeah.
We'll get back to the.
We'll get back to
the
that.
noise.
That was just a comment that
We
we
have
do
an
that.
active motion on the
Yeah.
floor that's been seconded.
Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Well, I do have a question that goes along with this, but what does the commercial designation get us?
Taxes.
I mean, just with regard to it being a short-term rental and how we can enforce,
Right, what benefit is it to this, to happen?
I can probably answer that better once I've had a chance to research it. But it sounds like is that the Manatee Fire District, you said?
Yes, sir. Happy to send you that article as well. Yep.
That'd be great, yeah. Just give me an opportunity to look into it and see if there, what the benefits would be.
Okay,
See if, what type of change that did make.
okay, good, thank you.
I-
Look forward to that.
I think we've got the cart before the horse here. I think what the first step in my mind would be to ask our city attorney to take a look at the case and see if the fact set lines up with our, but we've given, the motion is to instruct them to begin process of doing this. We don't know what the fact set is in the case yet. Why don't you, can you just read the case and report to us, yeah, this seems viable or it doesn't? Because I'm vice president of Suncoast League of Cities, which is all Pinellas County except for me. These guys have been fighting Airbnb stuff since 2011. I can't, if it's this simple, why have they missed all this? There's got to be something, maybe it's new, I don't know, but maybe there's something that they've discovered that everybody else has been missing. But I don't really want to waste a bunch of staff time until we know what the case says and whether you think that this is, I mean, I'm not against the idea if it's viable, but I don't want you guys to go down to step 15 on a process if it's not viable. That's my opinion, but. Councilmember Kravitz.
Just want to clarify, I believe my motion was to instruct the city attorney and the city manager to explore the requalification. So I wasn't instructing them to actually begin the process.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So you and I are in agreement.
Okay. I don't know that we need a motion to give you instructions to read a case, but there's pretty innocuous. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. Other new business or board reports? So you wanted to talk about the noise. Go ahead and ask the
Yes.
chief.
Chief Staley, could you come up and report?
Councilmember Chambers, you have it.
I'm sorry.
Rob Staley, Chief of Police. Currently, we do have the ability to go out and enforce noise ordinance violations, and we do have noise decibel meters.
Yep, thank you.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Councilmember Kravitz.
Just a brief comment. I was only reporting on what the other county was doing. I was not casting any aspersions on our officers, just to be clear.
Other new business or board reports? Okay, city managers report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So a few items this evening. The first one is just to follow up on the motion about the virtual town hall regarding the PFAS issue. As I've mentioned in a council update from, I believe, a week ago, have a suggestion. If you looked at the CHA, the consultant that's handling our PFAS water treatment solution, they have a schedule where they anticipate that they'll be presenting us with a final plan after doing their pilot and gathering as much information. And we'll probably also have more data from the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County in terms of some of those partnerships by the end of the calendar year. That's their projected schedule. They also projected in their schedule to be participating in a town meeting at some point after that, shortly or thereafter. So what I would suggest, if the council is amenable, is that once we get that final plan and the data from all the other research that we've been putting together, that we actually convene an in-person town hall like we did a few weeks ago, and that we also simulcast it using Zoom or a comparable platform where people can have input like they do for the TPO meetings. And that we do that at some point shortly thereafter this. I would suggest, based on the schedule, it probably end up being sometime mid to late January to get around the holiday period, which is always a tough period of time for folks to attend some of these meetings. just a suggestion, I'd like to get your feedback on that.
Council?
Okay with that. We'll have more to talk about.
I think we need to have data before we have the next meeting.
So this schedule would mean that they have the results of their analysis and they're going to be presenting solutions, and then we would have the town hall? Or would this just be that they would have the results that we would be announcing, but not necessarily any suggestions for solutions?
Sure. Based on their work program, they would actually have a final plan by the end of the calendar year. At least that's their initial work schedule. They're going to take 3 months to do their pilot, so I would think it'd make much more sense to have the pilot done first, to make sure that's completely done, and the solution that they're going to present to us is one that can work. We're also going to have to do some financial analysis of what that might mean, because they're going to give us a number, I would imagine, a cost, and we're going to have to figure out, okay, how do we pay for that cost? Concurrently, like I said, we're working with the county to see if we can buy some water from the county, or at least present that to you, obviously, the bulk water rate that you might want to consider, and what that might mean in terms of making a connection to the county's nearest pipeline. So all that data, it's just going to take a while to compile all that, and I think it'd be worthwhile to get it all first, then present it to the public, present it to you first, and then present it to the public in the town hall.
Councilmember Kravitz.
I have an unrelated question for the city manager. In the past 2 weeks, have we received any more document disclosures from Blazing Paddles?
So actually, we have retained services of outside legal counsel. We just had a meeting this afternoon. We're going to.
Can we iron out the town hall thing first?
Yeah.
Hold that question, but what are we doing with the town hall, guys?
I'm fine with the plan.
Okay, we're good with the plan? Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Now you
Thank you.
go ahead with the blazing.
All right, thank you for that. So the question, yes. So we have outside legal counsel. We have also going to be engaging the services of a financial consultant who's done work in vetting these types of proposals to get that analysis done. We plan to reach out to them. We've been keeping them on hold until we gather these entities first. So we'll be reaching out to them this week to let them know this is what we're doing, and then move forward from there and bring that information back to the council.
Okay. So there hasn't been any active movement from.
Well, not. We haven't reached out to them. They've been waiting on us.
Oh, okay.
Based on the.
I wasn't sure where it left off with them. I was just curious if they were providing any of the documents that they were missing.
No, I assume they will provide all the documents that we request in order for the sale to move forward.
And have there been any other interested parties for the property downtown in question?
Is Mr. Polly? I know we've kept it on the market. I'm not sure if you've got any updates.
Good evening, Greg Pauley, Director of Community Development. Thank you for that question. If I may back up just a little bit, we actually, through our broker, communicated with the Blazing Paddles group to hold steady until we were able to secure outside legal counsel to assist us. So that is why we don't necessarily have any additional documents at this time. As the manager mentioned, the three of us, the manager, the city attorney, and myself met with outside counsel this afternoon, and it seems a very promising and positive relationship moving forward. With regards to any additional interest, as of this time, I have not received any additional leads. As the manager alluded, we have left the properties listed. They are available for interested parties to make inquiry, but to date, we haven't received anything new.
Interesting. If I could just propose a topic for discussion, I think it would be really interesting to incorporate into the listing something along the lines of that the city is willing to provide a financial inducement or credit for an interested developer who comes in with a really persuasive concept. Because to date, what we've done is we've kind of let it go, and then the developer will come in and they'll give us a lowball estimate, like 1.4 million is one that we previously got. I think if we said it's 2 million, but we'd be willing to offer inducements of up to X amount, whatever that may be, if the developer comes in and provides us with the community amenities that we want, if they work with the space in a way that we really like, that we can then put a number on that and give them that as the incentive. Does anyone think that that might be worth pursuing? Because I think we might get a broader pool of applicants that way.
I'm not opposed to that idea. I think we might be smart to, I don't know that it's a great time to do it when we have a nibble right now and we go back out and say that's just a lot of things going on at the same time. But if this doesn't produce fruit, I think that's worth talking about. I think that's a workshop, probably better than a council meeting, but yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea. I don't think that's a bad idea to say we're willing to talk about P3s or we're willing to talk about some incentives to do things.
Aren't we doing that now, though?
Well, we are. I mean, I think to some extent we have.
Whether we advertise it.
But we could probably hone that. I don't think that would be so bad to talk about that with our broker and our staff. I just don't know if it would be the time now when they've made an offer. I know you don't like their offer, but the rest of us do. I'd like to see this run its course before we change the listing.
I would like to see it run its course
I don't think that's a bad idea, though. I think that's worthy of a workshop, seems to me. Say if we could get.
Yeah, if you want to clarify it, sure.
I mean, I think we have requested, in conversation with the broker here, we have not necessarily done an in-depth back and forth where they give us the suggestions of the best way to market it, how to make this more viable. But I know I have asked, what should we be doing? What should we be asking for? What should we be looking for or presenting this property to make it more viable, to get what we're looking for? But we haven't necessarily had a workshop where they've come in and said, well, you all need to ask for, you need to market it this way or that way, but hopefully it has been communicated to them. I mean, they've received the communication that, we're open to some different ideas.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So yes, I would be interested in having a workshop with them because I don't know what they're thinking from their point of view, if they've incorporated what we have tried to communicate in their marketing strategy. But I know they're definitely trying to sell it, but it's a matter of what's going to give us the most value.
I think though, Councilmember Kravitz has a point because some developments have happened over time. It's been a while since we had a workshop with them. We've changed our guidance a little bit too with we want some outdoor,
yes.
Activity kind of space. And so, I don't know if it's not a bad idea after we see what happens with this, if it's not a bad idea to regroup with them and say, okay, we're getting lots of offers. We're just not getting the kind of stuff we want.
Right. No, I'm totally in favor of it.
We've had offers in the past that have relied upon these financial incentives offered but they came from the developer. And at the hotel, the hotel, for example, was one. And some of the other projects down there that did bring forward financial incentives were requested. Obviously didn't take them because it didn't work out, but yeah. But let's let this one play out first.
Councilmember Kravitz.
Sounds good. I think in this scenario, we have to kind of think of ourselves as the developer. So, but I agree with what everyone else has said. There is one other property right now that is not under contract, not even under prospective contract at the moment, which is the Curry Bowl. So I think it's much less critical than the property that we were just mentioning. But nevertheless, it would be a good idea to maybe find ways to integrate it more solidly into the overall downtown concept with the walkability and whatever else we might try to plan there. So the same idea that I just brought up might also apply to that in a smaller scale. So I think if we do want to have a workshop like that with the realtor, then I think that would be a really wise move, because sometimes if you price a property wrong, you just get the complete wrong type of interest in it. And when you price it appropriately, then all of a sudden, all of the pieces click really quickly. At least that's my experience. So I don't know what the process would be to have such a workshop, but if it just requires a motion, I'm happy to make a motion to that effect. But otherwise, open to suggestions here on that.
So you're talking about a workshop while the paddle project is still pending?
For the other property that we have downtown, not for the, I know, I took on board what everyone said. You don't want to address that property as long as there's interest in it. We do have one other property downtown that is also for sale, and we could apply the same principle to that, which is to offer an inducement for someone coming in who's willing to develop that in a way that we find particularly pleasing.
You guys want to do that? I don't want to meet with them twice, but.
Well, I think it would depend on when we can even schedule this. So
I mean,
based on when we schedule it, we may have some knowledge of what is going forward with the Blazing Paddle project.
yeah, and there may be some merit to having the workshop done before the Blazing Paddle thing, because then it would apply to that piece of property if that deal falls through. But it also could hurt that deal too. So I'm just willing to wait to see what happens before we do that. It's a good idea to have that workshop.
That's my concern, is impeding the deal that's already, that's my concern. And what happens at that deal will have an impact on how to market the second parcel. If the paddle thing goes forward, your marketing strategy may be different for what you're looking for on the second piece. If it doesn't go forward and it becomes something else, now you're looking for something entirely different on that piece. So I mean, it's up to the council. I think we should wait. I'm not opposed to having a workshop with the broker, and I think that might be a good idea, but I don't think it's a good idea yet. But that's just my take.
I prefer to wait.
Well, my question would be, what if we just scheduled the workshop for late October or early November?
They may not know anything yet.
They're not going to know anything about that.
That's my concern. We can wait. Once we know something, then we can schedule one.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, I would like us to have something where we do have a strategy, but I do understand that our strategy might change depending on the outcome of these negotiations, but, you know, that's just my concern, is I want to be where we're a little more purposeful with our marketing in case, so that we don't miss something. But I do feel like we're accepting. I think the brokers understand they can bring us a lot of different projects, and we're considering things that we had not considered in years past. But so I'll do whatever the majority want, but I don't mind having it earlier and having the strategy to go forward, but I don't want to impede an existing project that could potentially go forward.
Well, and that's what I'm afraid of. If you were the potential developer of the paddleball thing, and we meet with our broker in public and start talking about adding incentives to the other property, how are you going to feel about buying? You're like, wait a minute.
Yes, I agree.
I already have a $600,000 incentive in that they're offering it $600,000 under list. So they shouldn't be too unhappy.
Okay. City manager, we were still on your report.
Yes, sir, thank you. So second item I have is actually, speaking of workshops, so as the council's aware, next year, my recommendation to council is that we go out to the voters in November for a general obligation bond for a public safety complex, yet to be determined whether it's a police station standalone or police and fire combined on the property. We're researching that over the next couple of months. We have a bond counsel. Dwayne Draper is our bond counsel, and he has suggested that we may consider doing a council workshop on the whole bond process. It's not something this community has done in quite some time, maybe ever. I'm not sure about.
We did have bond. Yes.
Back in the day, okay. But there is a definite process, there are timelines, there's a way to do this, to make sure it's done correctly. We have to get it on the ballot and all that. There's certain votes the council has to take in terms of resolutions or ordinances as well. So I would recommend that we look to schedule this workshop as soon as possible. So I just want to see if the council's amenable. If you are, I can have Jeannie work with you on finding a time and date that will make sense.
Of course.
I have a question. Sure. So we are also looking at a wide variety of funding potential for water treatment.
Mhm.
And I know that that's a totally separate fund, being an enterprise fund, and this would be a general fund obligation.
General obligation bond,
Okay.
yes, approved by the voters.
So is this, would we be able to go out with two different bond issuances if we needed to issue a bond for the water treatment?
Yes, they'd be separate. So the general obligation bond is, the voters would have to approve it. It would actually show up as a separate millage rate on their tax bill, on their trim notice and their tax bill, separate from the city's budget. The water system, because it's an enterprise fund, it will be a revenue bond, assuming we go down the bond market, which I anticipate at some point we'll have to. That revenue bond will be secured by rates, by what the ratepayers pay. We'll have to do a rate study for that. It's not a voter issue. It's just, you do the rate study, you determine what your rates need to be, basically as collateral for the future repayment of this debt to the water system. And then the council will have to take a vote and go through that process. But then the bond is only, the collateral is the future rates. And the GO bond, the security in essence is the millage that's separate on the tax bill, so that they'll be paying that over a period of whatever the term is going to be of that general obligation bond.
So the potential bond issue for water treatment requirements would not need to go on the ballot?
That is correct.
Okay, I want to make sure that we're not at cross purposes.
Is that equivalent to corporate debt if the water system were to issue a bond? Is that why it doesn't need to go to the ballot? Just asking.
So a general obligation bond that goes to the voters, it's basically, you're on the tax bill, you're on the property tax bill. Remember, our utilities, our enterprises, they don't go on the property tax. They're paid by the customers through the rates. So they're a separate animal altogether. So you're issuing a revenue bond based on the future revenue generated from the rates that the customers will pay. So that's the way it's set up. It could be, I'm not familiar with whether it's, I don't want to say it's corporate debt or not, because I've never been in the private sector in that fashion.
Thanks.
I think the workshop would be beneficial, particularly because we're probably going to be having some discussion about the water in the future too, and we might gain some general knowledge about the bond.
Yep, and he can speak to that as well, the revenue
Yeah.
bond side of the house.
I'd like to have the benefit of that workshop before the water estimate comes in, and then I mean, I don't know a whole lot about bonds. I mean, I know generally how they work, but I've never been in office since we undertook a bond. So I think it would be beneficial unless you guys disagree.
Okay, we'll reach out, trying to get some dates. Okay. The last item I have is I'd like to invite Kevin Woodard to come up. Yeah, he's wearing the right shirt for it, too.
Your walking billboard.
Good evening.
Thank you, City Manager. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Always appreciate annually getting to come and talk about one of our favorite events. And after a meeting like this, hey, let's get excited and let's keep celebrating 100 years of history here in Temple Terrace. And the keepers of our history are our seniors. And I'm privileged to work in the senior programs for the City of Temple Terrace at the Omar K. Lightfoot Center. And we have our 36th annual, and yes, I know, Mr. Chambers, you remember all of them very well, 36th annual Senior Expo. Senior Expo is a very important event that we have. It's fun, brings the community together, and I think our goal is to always bring our seniors and the seniors in our community surrounding Temple Terrace very important information that they need to have in a neutral environment. It can't be stressed enough that it's difficult for seniors these days, a lot of high-pressured type sales type events and things like that, where they might not feel as comfortable talking to up to 10 or 12 individuals that could represent insurance needs for them. We schedule this event every year so that we coincide with all the new legislation for Medicare and Medicaid, and so that all of our insurance providers actually have their printed material and things as we enter enrollment period for seniors in October and November for Medicare and Medicaid. But this is much, much more than that. Very pleased this year to have Generations Club as our title sponsor. This is an adult daycare provider, and where we can only provide certain services for our seniors, and we call ourselves a senior activity center. We want to encourage our seniors to get out, be active, and improve their health. There are so many seniors and families and caregivers that are in situations where they need an actual daycare type facility, and they're going to be on hand. They're going to have a complete room at the center, and they'll be able to talk to families and caregivers about how they could provide daycare services for seniors and do things that we can't provide as a city staff in Temple Terrace. So I'm very pleased to bring them on board. We're going to have Eminent Fitness. There's a local guy. Mike is a personal trainer. He trains seniors. He does a Fit Over 50 class on Fridays at Lightfoot Center. He's awesome. Come and talk to him. Visiting Angels, so we have national representation, as well as our sponsors. MC Ice will be there to give everybody a little treat at the end of the expo. And Dedicated Senior Medical Services is a big provider in Hillsborough County and around the Bay Area. They will be there as well. So we have some wonderful sponsorships, and we're going to be doing some important things here. Axiom Health is actually going to be on site, and they will be doing a limited number of cognitive care evaluations for seniors. So it'll take about a half hour if you sign up that day. But we know there will probably be a demand for that, so we have them coming back on October 23rd. So come to Expo. If you can get a cognitive evaluation during the Expo, that's fantastic. If not, you can sign up for the 23rd and come back. They're bringing a mobile bus to our facility to do these screenings, so you can do it right at the Lightfoot Center. Alzheimer's Association will be there with their brain bus. AARP has partnered with us to bring in Shred 360. I know a lot of seniors out there are going to be excited for this one. You can bring in 3 kitchen bags or 3 boxes of paper materials. Please don't bring hard drives or things of that material that need to be shredded. But they will be stationed in the east parking lot, and you'll be able to bring 3 bags or 3 boxes of items to be shredded. And fraud through mail addressing and things like that is a huge issue for our seniors. So this is something where you can have a little peace of mind and get some of those documents that you'd like to have shredded done in a secure manner. So lots of fun, over 40 vendors. We'll be there Friday, September 19th from 9 o'clock until noon. Please don't come park at 7:30. I got to get the vendors in and get them set up. And I know my seniors, they'll be there. So I hope you guys can come out, and I really do invite more than just seniors to come to this event. Families, caregivers, please take advantage of this opportunity. We have senior law there. The city represents always very well there. Many of our departments will be there to answer your questions from the city, and Hillsborough County Aging Services will be there. So wide variety of things for seniors and their families and caregivers to take advantage of. So I really appreciate the time to be able to get the word out about that, and hope everybody can come February 19th, 9 to noon. September
19th.
September. If you say it wrong, then people remember when you get it right.
Thank you, Mr. Woodard. Mr. Beal?
That's all I have. Thank you.
So while we're on the city manager's report, before we move on, I neglected to bring this up under new business, and I should have, but the city manager's contract is up for renewal in October. And so we need to begin the process of that. And so in years past, the council's directed me to meet with the city manager and bring that back for council review and approval, but that's up to the council how you want to proceed with that.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah, I would think so.
Move to approve that the mayor and city manager meet for preparation of the contract renewal for Mr. Baya. And bring it back to council for ratification.
Second.
Discussion?
Wouldn't mind adding a proviso to that the new contract should include an appropriate raise, given the increased cost of living and the demands of the job.
Or does that need to be in the contract? Because we always do, we do consideration of increased pay based on the.
We always talk about his salary.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying we do, does it need to be?
No. I can't negotiate if you put in there what I'm gonna.
Well,
Yeah.
the scope of it would be up to your discretion, presumably.
Yeah. Well,
That was given in my motion.
yeah.
Well, because I just know we always do the discussion and rate based on the evaluations, et cetera, and.
That doesn't need to be in this motion unless the council wants it to be in this motion.
No.
Motion stands.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. Okay, city attorney's report.
Nothing to report this
Mr.
evening.
Mueller, nothing. Okay, council, anything else? If not, we will be adjourned.